10 o'clock that night, a drunk me left
For the States.
for the States.
Okay.
I don't even remember much about the first flight. I was flying to France and then connecting from France to the US. I don't remember. And that was my first international flight. And I can't remember it.
Because you're blacked out?
I was blacked out. I just remember someone saying we were landing.
So now you land in the States. The land of opportunities, so they call it.
Now I'm in America. So the moment you're in America, you're free. Man, I'm toboring my ear.
So anyway, you quit school. Do you tell your folks?
No. We send them pictures and tell them everything is hoki-dory. After all, they're no longer paying school fees. See, now they sent you for the first semester.
Yeah.
So you're like, everything is okay. You know, they would call. Mom is always like, let's pray. When we call, we are praying. You know, we are, you're saying all the right things.
Yeah.
But behind the scenes, you're doing everything wrong.
You've probably seen him on your screens, but behind that hearty laughter is a story. One might say his life has been a fluke. Others might argue that it is rather unfortunate. This is the story of Levi Kones. How are you?
Very well.
Karibu sana, Cape Media.
Yeah, asante sana.
So maybe we can start by where you grew up and how it was like growing up for you.
I grew up in South B, not too far away from here.
Yeah.
My parents were what you would call a typical middle-class family.
Yeah.
They were very religious. My father was a banker. My mom was a secretary for so many years in various places. And I could say my life was pretty much okay, Never lacked anything, went to school on time. Actually went to public school, Our Lady of Mercy down there, and Plainsview. And then ended up going to a boarding school for my class 8 exams. So, and then I had one sister, 3 brothers. It was a pretty sheltered life. Yeah.
And how are you performing in school, maybe?
Actually, very well.
Oh.
Yeah, I aced my exams in class 8. My sister, though, was exceptionally good. So
that's your elder sister?
My elder sister,
Okay.
yes. She was exceptionally good. So there was always that comparison between me and her because we were 1 year apart. And then I have a brother who follows me after 6 years. At the primary level, that was not a problem. In high school, I think it became a problem because I began to, get involved with other things apart from my schooling, which then led to some serious deterioration in my studies.
Yeah. What are these other things? Because I read somewhere that you were suspended in Form 1 in the first term.
Yes, I was suspended in Form 1 first term. It was by accident, let me just say, because of course no one plans on getting suspended. And I went to school, got into this, I would say different company, because these guys were Form 4 guys mostly, and they were going after they had girlfriends who they wanted to go visit at the dorms. So one of the guys who I was cubing with put me as a lookout guy for them to go sneak into the dorms, and ended up being a lookout. We all got caught. They all got expelled. I got suspended. So you see, to me, that particular incident wasn't so much me being, a rebellious character, was just playing along. Like how you're in school and an elder person asks you, can you do this?
Yeah.
But I think it began a very, very bad relationship, especially for me and my parents, my father especially, because at that point in time, he was he saw himself, like most parents, as, a straight-up guy, a stand-up guy, a guy in the society who was looked up to. He used to come to preach even in my school. So it was a very terrible incident for his own son in that particular school to then get suspended. I believe I was actually discovering myself, maybe not so much with a nurturing hand to be able to show me the way that I should have gone. But my concentration was not so much on my studies. And I didn't actually do very well in Form 4. I was so done with school. You know how when you're in Form 4 and you don't want school anymore, like high school.
Yeah.
So a decision was made actually for me, because about 2 weeks or so later, I got some paperwork to go to MTC to study clinical medicine.
Oh, really?
So he showed up with a letter. He told me, you have been accepted to MTC, you're going to go study clinical medicine, and that was the end of the matter.
Did you have any interest in the medical
No,
field?
but they wanted to have a doctor.
A doctor,
and so even when I went to clinical medicine, even my relatives began referring to me as daktari. You're barely 1 week in school, and you're daktari, And I survived for a whole year. And then I quit. And when I quit, I didn't exactly tell my parents.
Okay. How did they take it?
badly. You know, it just looked like I'm just this child who just wants to create problems, who, you know, who doesn't want to have a lifeline for life. I mean, how many people want to go to MTC to do this particular course? You know, it's so lucrative, everyone is dying to get in there, and you are wasting it away. And I can understand that part, but I believe that at that moment in time also, I had never really come to ask myself the question of what do I really want?
How did you negotiate with your parents? Sawa, I won't do this course, but I'll do ABCD.
I'm looking for a course that can take me out of here.
Okay. Out of the country?
Out of the country. I just wanted out.
Okay.
So at that moment in time, I decided to do shipping management, which nobody I knew was doing. And the school I went to look for was somewhere near bus station. You know, one of those dingy schools behind some Tufani building. You have to go to the 4th floor with some, you know, mismatched staircases.
Because first floor is a church.
Yeah, you know, those those places. So I enrolled there, and it became pretty obvious after a while that that school was not legit. Yeah. So that dream tanked.
Whoa. At this whole time, it's your folks who are paying for your school fees?
Yeah, and this time, by the way, my sister has passed very well. She's doing biochemistry at Baraton University. And while she's there, she has applied to a university in the US and has gotten accepted.
Okay.
And so she left. So when she went to the US, you know, those days social media wasn't so much there, you know, and we could not, actually it was not there. I mean, I didn't say so much there. We were doing letters, emails. So she would tell me about the States and, you know, how nice it is and who didn't want to go there. So it's her who got a university to send me an I-20 form, which is basically an acceptance letter for education for me to go to the same university she was going to study sports medicine, which I knew nothing about. Okay. But as far as I was concerned, it was a tool to go to America. Yeah. So I read a bit about it and talked to my parents about it. Of course, they were not so enthusiastic because here I am, a string of failures here in Kenya. Yeah. And then I want to go to the US, and nobody thinks even I'm mature enough, you know, or responsible enough to do it. But they're like, okay, you'll go for the visa. Okay. Ukipata, sawa. Sawa. You know. Okay.
Were you being sponsored or?
No, they were supposed to pay, like, you know how those days people do. They do a harambe, you know, they pay for you the first semester. Alafu, you're expected to stand on your own after that. Okay.
Yeah. So what happened? Did you make it to the US?
Yes.
Okay.
So, in fact, I went for the visa, and they actually had a very, very easy interview. There I was, the visa guy just asked, oh, you're going to study sports medicine. Tell me about sports medicine. I'm like, okay, it's a study of, you know, matters to do with ligaments, injuries, blah, 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 blah. He's like, okay, you do any sports? Yeah, I swim. What strokes do you swim? I gave him 4 strokes. He's like, okay, come for your visa. And I was like, you know, that changed my whole life. I mean, I was going to America. It changed my whole perception. I had finally done something right.
Wow. So now you pack up.
I pack up. There are prayers that are held, you know, demons are cast out, you know. Protection is pronounced. And the day before I was to go to the US, something happened. So a friend of mine, I don't think he'll mind me mentioning his name because it's my book, Herbert, and I have been friends for many years. And we were in Nairobi just, you know, bouncing around. Yeah. When we ended up at my uncle's office, who had just come back, I think from some trip, Japan or somewhere or something. Anyway, he gave us $100. He's like, oh, you're going to the US, here's something. So off we ran to the Forex to change this $100, and we realized it's quite some good money. And then ideas come. This is the day I'm leaving. It's the day I'm leaving. I'm leaving tonight, like at 10 o'clock. And it's morning. And we are thinking, okay, let's go to Sarit Center. Let's go to where? Let's go to where? So we began going places, and we began taking cocktails, alcoholic cocktails. Yeah. Come 4 o'clock when I'm supposed to go home and pack, and people are waiting at home for prayers and stuff. And I am so high.
No way.
And this is the day of travel, eh?
No way.
All this is terrible stuff. This is all in my book too. Yeah.
Okay.
So I get back. I get back to my uncle's house who was hosting us, and of course people noticed there's something very wrong with this guy. One of my uncles, God bless his soul, really, was really trying to give me water, you know, getting me sober, you know, all those kind of things. And My father has already declared this guy is not going.
Oh, because he's mad, because
He's
you're
mad.
drunk.
Yeah.
You've clearly proven his theory that you're not mature enough.
I'm not mature enough.
Okay.
But he was convinced, and 10 o'clock that night, a drunk me left
For the States.
for the States.
Okay.
I don't even remember much about the first flight. I was flying to France and then connected from France to the US. I don't remember. And that was my first international flight. And I can't remember it.
Because you're blacked out?
I was blacked out. I just remember someone saying we were landing.
Oh.
And there I was in a funny, city with everyone speaking French, and I have to connect to the US. And that was how my American journey started. But I did not know it at the time. Mm-hmm. But the disaster had already happened at the start. In fact, I've written a chapter saying, be cognizant of the way you start.
Okay.
Sometimes it's everything. Yeah.
So now you land in the States, the land of opportunities, so they call it.
Now I'm in America, so the moment you're in America, you're free. Man, I'm boring my ears. You see, my ears are still, sometimes my daughters try to push things through them.
Yeah.
They still go through, but it's been many years since I wore earrings.
Okay.
So I'm getting earrings, tattoos, I got dreadlocks. I'm bald now. I think this is God's punishment for the things I did to my hair. But, you're doing all the things that you feel like you missed out on.
Yeah. Because
you are this sheltered child with so many rules and regulations. And then I'm going to school, and I'm quickly discovering that, school life is really suppressing me because money is there to be made in places.
Yeah.
So now I'm looking for jobs, I'm working, I'm quitting this job, looking for more money in this job. I was actually quite a hard worker.
Okay. Are you in school at the same time?
Eventually, I got a job with the Coca-Cola company. And it was a job that was advertised for a territory manager, which was supposed to be something you're supposed to be like qualified for, really, like you've got a bit of paperwork and stuff. But I happened to apply. And I don't know who else was applying or what happened. But when I went for the interview, they gave me the job.
Oh.
So I worked for them for almost a month. It was a salary job. And the moment they gave me my first paycheck, I looked at it, asked myself one question. See, we go to school to make money.
See, I'm making money. How much are you getting? How much are they paying you?
It was around $2,700 a week.
Oh, a week. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a lot of money because, those days, even ordinary jobs, it was hard to make, because most guys were making, maybe if you're making good money, it was like $15 to the hour. Mm-hmm. And if you work 40 hours, that's about $600.
Yeah.
Yeah. For the most part. Maybe if you're doing so well, $800 or maybe. Now here I am, I'm hitting almost $3,000.
And qualified.
A foreigner. Yes.
A black guy.
Yes.
Oh, aren't you a child of God?
Yeah.
So anyway, you quit school. Do you tell your folks?
No. We send them pictures and tell them everything is hoki-dory. After all, they're no longer paying school fees. See, now they sent you for the first semester.
Yeah.
So you're like, everything is okay. They will call. Mom is always like, let's pray. When we call, we are praying. We are, you're saying all the right things.
Yeah.
But behind the scenes, you're doing everything wrong. And it actually weighed on my conscience too. You don't do these things and somehow you don't feel it.
Yeah.
So I went through the motions until one day I went to work, and somebody had called and told the guys, there was this random immigration check. If you're in the US, they call it the INS. Everyone is afraid of them. If those guys look for you, there's a good chance you'll be in enough trouble to go home.
Okay.
So my boss asked me, because in my application, of course, I've written I'm an American citizen. Everyone needs to write that. You just tick the box. They won't ask you, produce evidence. But he said, you're a citizen, blah, 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 blah. Can I just see your paperwork and all that? And I figured somebody must have called.
Yeah.
So I knew the job was over. I went home, packed my bags, and left that state.
Okay. What state were you residing in?
That was in Kansas.
Okay.
Then I had to move now. I went to Atlanta to a friend's place. Began working there. I worked in a gas station. I did so many things there. I've washed trucks. I've worked in a factory. All the manner of things that, foreigners do when we go to these countries. And of course, because now the schooling was over, this particular thing persisted until I ended up in Chicago and now got in enough trouble to start the journey.
Before getting into trouble, I want to know how's your life aside from work in the States? How's your social life, for example? What was keeping you in the States? Why didn't you ever think of coming back home? Because I know you were there for 6 years.
Yeah, you know, you work hard, you play hard, you're always partying, you're always going places, you know. It's a bubble that sort of blinds you for a long time. Because as long as you're supporting yourself, you know, you live for the moments where you can show off, you can party, you can, you know, get into relationships and things. And somehow it's a cycle that's just never ending. And you know, you're in your 20s, so your energy is boundless. You can party from Monday to Monday and you're fine.
Yeah.
I mean, nowadays, if I even go and stay up until 2 o'clock, the following day, it's a story, you know.
Yeah.
But there you are, you're at night, you've gone until 10 o'clock, and the next day you're at work at 6, and that's going on. So you feel invisible.
Yeah.
But you don't realize it's just a short moment, you know.
Okay. So things happened in Chicago. What happened?
What happened was I had this Kenyan girlfriend who had moved to a place called Winona, about 4 hours away from where I was staying. And in Chicago, I was working for the Motorola company. I was, you know, doing packages of phones and things. And I had another job. My first job in the media was with a newspaper called the Chicago Tribune, where I was, you know, not the main writer, but I was contributing to stories about Africa, which they would compile in the week. Maybe I should have realized then that media was my
Journalism
thing.
was your calling, yeah.
Yes, because I was working 4 hours a week. So I lost this job at Motorola because the company shut down. And when the company shut down, it became very difficult because the US went into a recession about that time. It became difficult to get a job. And the paper job was 4 hours 4 hours a day, which was not sustainable to help me pay my rent, you know, get me up on my feet and get me moving. So I decided to go back to Kansas. It had been a while.
Okay.
And now it had been around 4 years since I'd been there. My sister was still living there. And I thought maybe I could go back there, start over, look for a job, lead a quieter life. After all, you know, places like Kansas are like pundus. They're like the bush. It's like living in, you know, in my Shag Zuko in Mount Elgon. It's America, but it doesn't have the glitz and glamour. And it's cheaper to live in, you know. So I was looking at those things now, and I believe in some sense I was maturing, you know, looking at that, thinking the big city is not the thing for me. So I decided to move back. So I packed my stuff together, you know, closed my lease for the house. I had 2 roommates. We closed the lease, and I began the drive home. But I decided to go visit this girlfriend in Winona on my way to Kansas. Okay. When I got there, it was about 10 p.m.-ish or something. And here we are. I've gone to her house. We are talking, and we go out, and we get into an argument. And I remember the argument was about my usage of money. I didn't have much money, and there we was splurging and stuff. And this argument didn't just stop in the club. It came back, followed us all the way back home. Okay. So here we are, we're arguing, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm telling her, you know what? To hell with you, I'm going. I'm going. Yeah, you don't want these stories. You know those words you exchange with someone, heavy words? Yeah. And then you say you're jumping in the car and you're leaving. And to her credit, she tried to beg me not to leave. But I left. So I'm driving, I'm drunk, I am fatigued, and I'm thinking I need to sleep somewhere. And so on my drive somewhere through a place called Eau Claire, it's in Minnesota, I spotted a motel that was a cheap motel. It was $34 and something, and I decided to drive into it and spend the night. Yeah. Drove in, wrote a check for the hotel, and gave out my passports. I could not find my driving license for some reason. But my passport, my Kenyan passport, was expired. Okay.
Was expired.
And at this point in time, I've been in the US longer than my visa years.
Okay.
Longer than 5 now, you know, because they used to give 5-year visa. So this guy noticed, and I believe he called the immigration because I went to bed. He gave me a room, I went to bed, and I was waking up in the morning by the sound of the policeman breaking through the door. Oh. Apparently, they had tried to talk to me through some loudspeaker or something, but I was exhausted. You know, I'd been driving for long, and I had been drinking.
Oh, okay.
You know, so I was just in that blackout sleep. In fact, I thank God I didn't wake up because I think they would have shot me. Because they came in guns drawn and all that, imagining that I was, you know, preparing for some sort of retaliation. And I was in bed, so I was pulled out in my shorts. I didn't have a shirt. They gave me a shirt. I was taken to the station, and it became apparent that it was the immigration who were after me. So the following day, I was transferred to the main immigration center in Minneapolis, and for the next 6 weeks, I was in solitary confinement in a prison in Rush City.
Okay. So
And
this
then-
whole time they're trying to process your...
They're processing me. They've already found out everything about me. They already know all my sins in Kansas, in Atlanta. You know, I had a DUI charge there at some point. They already know that I have, you know, violated my F1 visa status, which gives you some certain hours within which you can work. They already know all that stuff. So now, they just asked me, well, would you like to voluntarily return home?
Oh. So it's you either voluntarily return home or petition.
Or they put a process
Okay.
to make you go back home. Now their process, by the way, can put you in there for 10, 15 years even. There was a guy there, a Kenyan I met there, who had been fighting deportation for 10 years.
Oh.
So I looked at that story. I thought, I'm 27. My parents were still okay in terms of their ability to provide. And I thought, let me just go back to Kenya. So I signed up. Let me go. I've decided it's okay. And then they decided they were going to look for a flight. So now that took time. When they finally found a flight for me to return back home, I was pulled out of the cells one day, escorted to the Minneapolis airport, and they made sure that I got on the flight to Amsterdam, Nairobi.
Were you cuffed? On
No.
your flight to, okay.
You see, because I accepted to come, they didn't have to accompany me. Some guys are accompanied like by a cop all the way to Nairobi.
Okay.
I wasn't. The moment these guys escorted me and put me on the flight, I was on my own. In fact, in Amsterdam, I was just roaming. I only had $20, which the United States government gave me, you know, to buy a meal or something.
Okay.
But I was in shorts, t-shirt, a kabuti, and sandals.
So this whole time, did your parents know that you were being deported back
Yes,
to the
I
country?
had called my sister, so they were aware, you know. And they had also tried to reach out, you know, to the US to see what was the legal issues and stuff. But when they heard I was coming back home, everyone knew the day I was coming back home.
Okay. So did they pick you up at the airport?
Yeah.
Oh, how was that? Both your mom and dad?
Yeah.
How was that?
It was terrible.
I can imagine.
You know, you land
Yeah.
at an airport, everyone is pulling baggage from the overhead bins. You know, people are waiting for baggage to roll out of that car, you know, the luggage carrier.
Yeah.
You're there, you just checked in. All you have is this raincoat and this shirt and this short and those sandals. After how many years of being abroad?
6.
This is you.
You've not seen your parents ever
Yeah.
since you went abroad?
Only thing you've done is gain weight.
Yeah.
Because they're looking at you, they're like, is it him, is it him, is it him, you know, and then you show up, you know. So, and they're driven from Eldoret to pick me up. The first thing I noticed about them is that they had become older.
Okay.
It had never really hit me that my parents were aging.
Yeah.
But it was all over their faces, and I believe I was also part of the additional stress. The wrinkles were more, you know. So we drove from Nairobi to Eldoret that night.
What was the conversation in the car though?
Well, I tried to tell them, they tried to listen. I tried to tell them about my life in America, what had happened. They were listening, and then when we got home, you know, it hit me. I was back.
Yeah.
You know, even now I talk about it, but let me tell you what, when I remember, that was real trauma. Because many days I used to wake up thinking I was in my apartment in Chicago,
Oh.
only to realize I was in Eldoret. People were, you know, for lack of better words, trolling me because lack of social media, but you know, the neighborhood grapevine is busy saying, you see that kaboy, huyo, came back, went to the States, came back with nothing. You go to church, you talk to a kachik or something, the parents call, ule ni kale kadipoti. You're like a pariah,
Yeah.
like a leper, you know?
So did your parents try maybe protecting you from society at that time?
I don't think, you know, now I think is when we are so aware of mental health issues and the things that stresses and pressures like that can put. We are just discovering it as a country, honestly speaking, you know. To be honest, back in the day, people just told you to, you know, suck it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the man up.
And them, of course, they're also disappointed. I mean, they're the parents of the
Yeah,
child who went and came back with nothing.
Was the
So they're also having trauma.
Yeah. Well, there's that.
You know.
So where do you start? You come back to Kenya. You're used to, you know, working and having.
I'm used to
independent-
working. Now
independent.
I've got a curfew.
Yeah.
You know, I'm being asked, where have you come from? My brothers who I left when they were baby cubs are now they're teenagers and in early 20s. So we are butting heads all the time, you know. We are fighting over territorial spaces, kidogo kwa bedroom and things like that. I mean, it was just bad.
Yeah.
And that led me to alcoholism.
Okay.
Doctors, in Kenya are very
Casual.
They're like, oh, you have cancer, it's
No
in stage 3, you
offense.
need an operation, you need chemo.
Yeah. Did you ever think at some point that you'd die?
Yes.